You and it's
Yeah, we're
working.
good. We're live.
Hello.
Hello. How are
Oh
you
my
Well,
doing?
God, you are so gorgeous. You are so pretty.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you guys for having me.
of course, we
Yeah.
want to welcome everybody to In the Spotlight. We're going live every Monday with a new guest. I'm your host, Donnie Spellman, and this is my lovely co-host, Tara. And our guest this week is going to be the lovely Lauren Hall. She's an amazing country singer. Go buy her merch. If y'all go to her
Yeah,
Instagram, Lauren Hall Music. This is the most comfortable shirt I own.
they're very. I'm almost out of. Should have more shipments coming in next year, but
Good. I just need to get another one.
yeah,
Hey, I
yeah, exactly.
now
I
comfy.
need to get one. I need to just get everybody some Lauren Hall merch.
Absolutely. That's a good Christmas present.
It is. It's a good stocking stuffer.
Ooh, absolutely. So,
I like it.
how was your radio conversation you just got done with?
It was good. I'm Hunter and Kush. They're some of our DJs here in Charleston at a station. They are hilarious. I never know what we're going to talk about, so I just kind of go in blind, and it's always hilarious. We looked up our name meanings on Urban Dictionary. That was pretty funny. I don't know if y'all have ever done that before, but
No, do tell.
it's it's hilarious. Like people will write descriptions of your name, and you can just read them, and they're usually really funny. Sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're really weird, but it's definitely entertaining if you're ever bored and want to look up your name on Urban Dictionary. So we had a good time talking about that.
What was yours?
Nice.
Mine was it was a very they Hunter the DJ read mine, and it was like very nice. It was saying how I light up a room and I have a nice smile and all these very nice things, which I was like, that's you know. But some of them are really there's one that was like it was funny, it was about country music. It was like a Lauren's only downfall is that she likes country music. I'm like, well, that's weird.
It's not a good fortune.
No,
And
but it was fun. It was a good day. They're a good crew over there. They play my music some on the station. So, and we do a lot of shows with them locally. They bring in artists and we get to open for them. The last one we did was Donnie was actually there. We opened for Joe Nichols with that station. So
oh,
they're
nice.
They've had a ton of good guests. They had Jackson Dean this year. They had Nate Smith come in recently. Joe Nichols. They've had a ton of really good talent in there.
yeah, they've been really good about bringing in like a lot of national artists, and I like that they make their shows a lot more like intimate. I feel like they've been doing a series called the Nashville Hot Series where it's like a very small room and they bring in an up and coming artist. And like Donnie, I think you've been to one of those too,
Yeah,
where like it's you just get to hear stories from these artists and they'll do like an after party, and we've played a few of those.
it's
I
definitely a
love
great time.
What has been one of your like favorite performances with them?
I would say probably my favorite one would be like I did a show with Lauren Elena with them, and it
Mm,
was like ago, and Lauren is she's so sweet. I've done a few shows with her since then that were somewhere with this with venues around town, but it was like the first time I played at this venue in town that I've always wanted to play. It's called the Windjammer, and they have a stage like inside and then outside. So you are playing to like an audience of like 1,000 people, then you turn around and it's literally the beach is right there. So I got to
oh,
open Warren on that stage, and it was so fun. It was sold out, and I love those shows because we do a lot of gigs where we'll play weddings or cover gigs, and then I'll do like the artist gigs where I get to do my original stuff. And so whenever we get to open for an artist like that, it's more of like me being an artist and playing my original music and making fans, that way where people come to actually hear original music and discover new artists. So it's always fun getting to be an opener because you get introduced to that artist audience, and it's just a good way to build your following in your hometown.
Speaking of the Windjammer, are you going on the 23rd by chance?
Is that the Josh Hewitt trio?
Yes. Yeah.
I am. Josh is a good friend of mine.
That's what I was told last night. So you know Kendall White?
Yeah.
So I met her last night. She's very nice. So I knew her dad and her mom from Henry's because they go there to see Mike and Beth play. And so yeah, she invited me. She'll tell me about Josh Hewitt and that y'all were mutual friends. So I was like, well, maybe Lauren's going, so I'm going there. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, and Josh is incredible, and if he has the same band he had last time I saw him. He had a fiddle player and a bass player. The bass player with him is actually Riley Green's bass player. And like Josh is, he brings guests up. Like he brought me up to sing. He brings Kendall up to sing. Like whoever is there that's like a musician friend of his. It's like just a jam, and he brings people up, and it's
That's
a lot of
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, you'll love him. He's up in Nashville right now and just killing it. Like people love him, and he'll come back to Charleston and get a huge crowd that'll show up at the Windjammer. So he's a good dude.
Yeah. Well, speaking of networking and opening for people, you just got to play the Riverfront Revival that was put on
Yeah,
by Darius
that,
Rucker, and you got to meet Darius himself, I believe.
I did. Yeah, he fun fact about Darius for anybody watching, he's from Charleston, born and raised in Charleston, started playing gigs when he was like in his 20s, and then like Hootie started, and all that was kind of born in Charleston. They played the Windjammer a ton. That's like venues they grew up playing. And so I got to play this music festival that was a curated music festival by Darius. So he picked the artists that were on the lineup, and he had like Brothers Osborne, Maggie Rose, Charlie Crockett, Jimmy Allen. Like it was a really cool lineup. And somehow I got on that lineup, and I've never met him before, which I feel like in Charleston, everybody like has their Darius story. Like people will meet him at Target, or they'll be wherever, because he lives part-time. He lives in Charleston still. And I just never met him, but always admired him. And I got to talk to him after my show, and he was super nice. Like he thanked me for being there, which I was like, thank you. Like I've grown up, looking up to him and just playing at the venues that he started out at. And I got to tell him how much that meant to me as a homegrown Charleston artist. And he was super nice. And he even said, he was like, well, we'll have to sing together sometime. I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing. But it was
Yeah.
cool. They had a good turnout. I hope they do it again, but
Yeah.
it was fun. Music festivals are like my favorite gig to play.
It was like the most well-run festival I'd ever been to. Food was great too, because usually when you go to festivals, the food can sometimes be kind of bad. But they had Red's Ice House was serving
Yep.
food there. The food was amazing. Like there was no waiting in lines. They had plenty of beer you can get. Music was phenomenal. The weather was perfect too that weekend. So, and it's on
Yeah.
the water too, by the way, Tara. It's a great setting.
I might
Yeah.
need to come.
Ever been to Charleston?
Yeah, I grew up on Hilton Head, so
Nice. Hilton Head's
yeah.
beautiful. I spent some time in Hilton Head. It's just the area like here in South Carolina. It's beautiful.
Anywhere near the water, I'm happy.
Yes. Yeah. Especially like you said, a music festival right on the water. It's like the other cool thing about that venue is they had like boats that pulled up, and they were just listening to the music by like they're in the water with their boat, and they could
Party.
hear crystal clear, and they just got to be, hear the music festival for free. So it was definitely a party.
It was a good time. So when we had hung out last time, you had told me that your dad was a big influence for you growing up because your dad grew up a musician. Did he always grow up playing drums, or did he play anything else as a kid?
His first like introduction to music, he started playing drums. He also plays guitar as well, but mostly like drums has been his thing his whole life. And he's very into, like, now as he's older, like he plays drums for me still. Fun fact, my dad is my drummer. But he like,
No.
yeah, and he has like a drum workshop where he like restores old vintage drums and like rewraps them, and like he's like very into that. But I grew up, watching him play in bands around town. He always played in like the church music ministry. So like just seeing him playing music at church or with different bands, and he just did that like growing up, and I admired it and like loved music, but I am actually naturally more introverted, so was super shy as a kid. So I'd always sing in my room, And when I thought nobody could hear me, and he'd always make comments like, "Oh, you should sing. You have good pitch. Like, is that something you want to do?" And it was something I wanted to do, but I was just terrified.
And how old were you at that point?
I was probably like 10 years old. And then when I decided I wanted to do music, I was probably, I want to say I was like 13. And like I was starting to learn to play guitar. And it was when Taylor Swift kind of came on the scene. And like she was, I mean, obviously she's still a big deal. But like when she kind of first came out in country music and she was like a 16-year-old, and like all her songs were like resonating with me. I was like, I feel like a lot of girls in music were like, oh, I want to do that. And like, so like I really admired her and started getting into country music. And I told my dad, I was like, I know what I want to do. I want to write songs, and I want to record an EP of 3 songs, because Taylor, I saw a backstory on her where it's really funny. She took a karaoke, like 3 karaoke tracks of her singing random songs, and she walked down Music Row and walked in all the record labels, and she put it on the front desk and was like, "Hi, I'm Taylor. I want a record deal." Obviously that's not how she got a record deal, but I had this dream that when I turned 16 I was going to record an EP of my original music that I hadn't written yet and go to Nashville and do what Taylor did. So I actually, when I turned 16, I had this little EP. And I don't know when she went, but the doors were locked when I tried to walk in.
They heard you were coming.
Yeah, it was probably like it was so stupid, but I was like, I'm gonna leave one of these because she did it. So I literally was in front of Big Machine, her previous label, and there's like a Lamborghini outside, and I left one of my albums beside the Lamborghini. I figured something important might I don't know.
Do you remember the first gig you did where you got paid, or what was your first introduction to like singing in front of people, and then how did that translate into getting your first gig?
Yeah. So my dad was in a band at the time, and they had a gig at this like coffee house, and I asked if I could like open for them, and so they let me do 4 songs acoustic, and me and my dad, because he plays guitar too. So I was super nervous, like took it very seriously. Like I didn't even talk all day. I was that nervous. I was like, I'm gonna make sure my voice is like ready to go. And I got to
How
open for, huh?
how old were you at that time?
I was 14.
Ooh,
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
I
the profession now.
super nervous, like taking it very seriously, which is funny because it's like literally like a coffee house gig. Like, I was just nervous and wanted to make sure everything was perfect because I'm very much a perfectionist. And it's funny, like the life lessons you learn, like doing anything but doing music. Like I wanted everything to be perfect. I didn't want to mess up because it was my first performance. And one of the songs we did was like vocally kind of challenging for me. So my dad was like, well, just, you don't have to play guitar. Just stop playing so you can focus on the vocal, and I'll carry the guitar behind you on this particular part in the song. So I was like, okay, that's a good plan. And I got to that, it was the bridge of the song, and I stopped playing guitar, and so did he. So and then I started singing this really high part. There was nothing underneath the vocal, and I freaked out, and I actually screamed in the mic, "You stopped!" Like,
Oh, yeah.
laughed, and like it was very lighthearted, and just learning like, oh, you're human. Like, don't take yourself so seriously. Like, it's okay. But
So
yeah,
then
those
what made you, after that, you wanted to continue doing like your next gigs, and which ones were they?
yeah. I did that gig, and then it's actually funny. The band that I was opening for, the lead singer, they kind of like stopped. They broke. They didn't really break up the band. They just stopped doing gigs for a little bit. So the band that I'd opened for, that were my dad's friends, and they're all my dad's age, became my band at the time. So we had this joke that it was Lauren Hall and the Geriatrics. They came up with the name. So they were all
Oh my.
my uncles, and so I had this band that kind of like was already established that I started to work with. And I think that was a cool way to be introduced to running a band, though, because I was so young that I didn't really know what I was doing. So like having some older experienced musicians kind of guide me through that. I think that was a good way to learn, like my first band ever working with like musicians. So like I did that gig, started working with these musicians, and I just started playing anywhere they'd have me, like coffee shops. Like we have this place in Charleston called Dog Green, and it's literally a stage in the middle of the woods, like a just like a big jam, and like musicians go out there and they meet other musicians and network. So I did that. Started just getting some festival gigs and playing some smaller stuff. And then, it's really all about relationships and networking. I just would play anywhere they'd have me. I tried to, befriend any musicians around town that were getting bigger shows, and they would like let me come up and sing with them. Like Josh, the guy you were talking about, the first time I technically ever sang at the Windjammer, it wasn't my show, but they did a open mic night, and Josh was the one running the open mic night. And I knew Josh and the guitar player that was with him. And I think I was 16 at the time. And Josh was like, "You want to come sing?" And I've always wanted to play at the Windjammer. So I was like, "Yeah." But Josh kind of watched me grow up, and it all happens through networking and relationships. And it just started to get to know people in the community that were involved in the music scene.
So you
Now,
start.
has it always kind of like smooth sailing with, your networks, or have you had some little bumps along the way, and like what were your challenges?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely challenges, especially because I've never had a manager, so as a young girl, like 16, emailing all these bar managers or music booking people, like, I'm 16, I'm like, "Hi, I'm Lauren, I have a band." I didn't say I was 16, but obviously they would go look up videos and be like, "Oh, this chick is like a teenager. Okay, she can technically get into our bar." So, you know. But it was definitely like it's always a challenge like when you first start playing gigs because nobody knows who you are. They're like, "Well, why should we let you come into our venue?" Like you kind of have to prove yourself a lot, Some people are going to say no, some people I've had people, not so much anymore, but you know, sometimes when you're like a female fronted band, like bars will be worried that you'll be too like girly and like not they want you to entertain, they want you to play like party music, and like they think if big that you might be too like chick music ish, which is not
Yeah.
the I have had that comment like, "Oh, well, you're not really a fit, like you play chick music," which it happens sometimes, but for the most part, like people in Charleston, like they're really good at supporting local artists that are growing up in the community and giving you a platform, even if it's another band or another artist you're friends with that just wants to bring you on stage and introduce you to their audience. But probably the biggest challenge was being a teenager and trying to like earn that respect and get my name in front of people and you know I was just a young girl trying to like figure out like playing in bars and how to book gigs, and when you don't have a manager and you don't have like people helping you in that way, I think you start off doing music, like I just love music, I love writing, and you're not really prepared to do the business side as much. So you get kind of thrown into it, and you just kind of learn as you're going. You learn to be your own marketing person. You learn how to book your band. You learn how to do all these different jobs that you wouldn't have thought you'd have to do. So you're going to like fail at it sometimes and like not get the gig, but it's just all like a learning process. And I'm glad I've been able to learn that because like I'd love to have a manager eventually, but I'm glad I've learned what goes into like all the aspects of managing a band or being an artist and booking your own songwriting, your own rights and stuff like that. So it's been good. It's all a learning process.
So, at what point did you start to feel like you gained that respect for everybody and started to feel comfortable as a performer on stage and started to feel like, hey, this actually could be a good career for me?
I think the first big show I think I started to feel that a guy that he one of my musician friends, he played all the time at this place called Red's Ice House, and He got sick one day and he let me come and sub for him. And I was 17 at the time. And the guy who books the music at this particular venue was there that night, and he really liked my band. And he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I'm working on a concert series with one of our radio stations, which happened to be the one I was with today." And he's like, I might want you to open for this particular artist coming through town. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I can't tell you who it is yet, but if I can get you passed and like, send you over to like usually when you open for people, they will kind of send all your information to their management and make sure they pass you to open for the artist. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to get this or not, but that's cool that they liked me enough to pitch me. And it happened to be Travis Tritt, and they approved me. And I got to open for Travis Tritt, and being on stage that big in front of that big of an audience, like opening for him, who's like a legend, that was one of the first times I was like, okay, this is really cool. This is what I want to do, because I got to do mostly my original music, and I got to perform to a crowd that was really there to like hear the music. They were into it. They were country music fans, and I just felt like an artist. I didn't feel like the girl just singing in a bar as background noise. It was like I felt like an artist, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to work up to playing shows like this. I had bronchitis, full on bronchitis, when I played this gig too, so that was fun. But it was still, even with that, it was one of the best like first moments playing gigs. Like that's a good memory for me.
Now, what has been one of your favorite songs to cover? If like you have to cover.
Anything like, I'd say anything Dolly or Miranda. Like
Mm.
we 9 to 5. We close out our set usually with
You
9 to 5.
you kill 9 to 5.
That's like one of my favorite ones. It's so sassy, and like as soon as like the keys part comes in, the da, da, like people just like go nuts, and they're like, they know right away what song it is. And it's funny, the guys in my band now, they're always like, we hate to admit it, but 9 to 5 is our favorite cover.
Oh,
But five, I play a lot of Miranda Lambert. Like I love Miranda, so anything Miranda. We've been playing If I Was a Cowboy a lot. I love Stevie Nicks too, so I like to cover some Stevie Nicks. 90s country. Donnie knows, he's been to my shows. Like I pay a tribute to 90s country. I do like a whole section where I'll play like Neon Moon and like Any Man of Mine, like anything by the Chicks. Like I love 90s country. So if I cover anything, like I want it to either be like Miranda, Dolly, or 90s country.
I mean, 90s really does have some of the best songs. So
They do. Like the 90s were just like, there were so many great artists and songs coming out. It's a great era for music in general, but I think country music was like, it was just like a great era for country music.
Feel like it's coming back a little bit now.
Yeah. I think like people, like it's interesting how country music goes through phases. And I think we were in like a rut of like the whole like, and like, I'm not like slamming pop country or anything, but like pop, it's not like there are some pop country songs I do like. Like I don't love it. Like I think it's good to like keep country music and like what it's known for. Um, but I think it's cool to see, some of that 90s country, that organic sound coming back and becoming popular. And I think it's been really nice to see like a resurgence in that.
I agree. So, from what I found online, so you start your career at 17, you're starting to feel like you're, becoming comfortable with yourself. Then you end up having some vocal issues, right?
Yeah.
So, what happened with your vocal issues? And you almost felt like you may never sing again, right?
Well, it wasn't that. It wasn't like serious enough where they were gonna have to like do like a big surgery, but I started noticing some like vocal fatigue, because like I, as a teenager, I was just like I would play 5 days a week, like didn't I didn't have great like vocal what's the word, like I don't want to say technique, but like I just grew up singing, so like I took some vocal lessons, but like I was just singing my butt off and just like multiple nights a week, and that'll wear on you, for on anybody. And I started to notice some problems, like where I couldn't hit high notes, or like after a show, like I would get really scratchy. So I went to go get it checked out, and I had a partial like hemorrhage on your. You can get like a vein on my vocal cords had like come together really hard, where like the blood vessel was almost hemorrhaging, which is what happened to Adele when she had to cancel all her dates. And so luckily we saw it, and the doctor was saying that I needed to get laser surgery. So I had to like stop shows, and like I was on the books for like laser surgery, and then I started working with my vocal coaches now, who are opera singers. And I started being taught classically, and they were like, do not get that surgery, because if you get, sometimes surgery can like, it can be good or bad. Like Lauren Elena, actually, she had a vocal polyp, I think, and they had to like cut her vocal cords, and like it doubled her range. So like sometimes you can get surgery and it can be good. Other times, like Julie Andrews, she can never sing again. So like you just never, there's a risk there. So if you can avoid it, they say to avoid surgery. So the coaches that I started working with were like, don't get surgery. We can fix this like naturally. So they told me, they're like, you're not allowed to talk for an entire month, which was interesting. So I had a dry erase board, and there's like an app. I don't even remember what it was called, but you could have it talk for you. So like in different accents, it was actually pretty funny. But I couldn't talk for a month, and then after taking that rest time, I had to be completely retaught. And that was really interesting, because like all these things that I didn't know about singing and like my vocal cords, like I started to learn a lot more working with them. And then they got me rehabbed, and I went back to shows. I didn't need the surgery, and it honestly, like, it was one of the best things that could have happened, I think, for me, for my career. And actually wrote a song about it that's on my EP I released about 2 years ago. And it's a song called Backwards. I wrote it when I couldn't speak. So I was like, it's what I love to do. So having to sit there in silence and not be able to just pick up a guitar and write a song and like sing was really hard. So I sat on my phone and actually typed the lyrics to this song, even though I couldn't sing it or come up with a melody. And when they told me I could go back to singing like every other day, I went straight to it. And it was like one of those songs that just kind of like fell out of me. And it was like a really special song, just kind of all about like when you're in the bubble of like a bad thing you're going through and you can't see what the reason is. Like you're going to look back on it and see good things that still came out of that dark season. And that's what ended up happening, which was really cool. Like I started going to Nashville more because I wasn't gigging as much. So while I was getting rehabbed, I started writing for my album that I recorded up there, and just kind of realized I don't want to do like the cover gigs as much. I want to focus on my writing, and I got to really rehab my voice and get it strong. So it was a hard time, but like I'm thankful for it now, looking back on it.
So did you have a vocal coach before the vocal problem?
I did. I had a friend of mine that was in the band at the time. Like she was a coach at one of our churches here in town, and like we worked together some. But being taught classically is, it's like a whole other thing. Like it's, you'd think it'd be weird as like a contemporary country artist to be taught classically, but it really gives you like the foundations of understanding how your voice works and how to like hit certain notes. And it's just been really helpful. Like I highly like recommend that to any singers. Like even if you're a
I
pop
mean,
singer, like it's just such a good, I think it's been really good for me.
well, that's how Carrie Underwood grew up too. She was trained
Yeah.
classically, right? Yeah.
Yep. And Josh Turner, he actually had a vocal injury, and I think he might have gotten surgery. I'm trying to remember. I remember reading about this. He had like a bad vocal thing happen to him, and he was retaught classically, and they completely rehabbed him, and he's good to go. So I mean, you think about an opera singer, like they don't have a microphone, they don't have anything, and they're having to sing over like an orchestra with no mic. So they have to be taught to project their voice without hurting themselves. So it's definitely intense, like learning how to like sing properly and like hearing about what they do. But they've been great. They're super supportive of me, and it's just been like a good thing for me. So,
How
but it's
often
scary.
how often do you see a vocal coach?
I usually meet with them like every other like every 2 weeks or something like that, like bi-weekly.
I was curious because I meet with my dance instructor every single week, so I was like, I don't know how often vocalists meet with their vocal coach.
Sometimes it's every week. Other times, like if we're both busy, because they do shows as well and they teach. So usually like every other week or sometimes every week. But yeah, I think like being taught classically has been a game changer for me.
Hmm. Well, a lot of your music is usually about breakups with
Oh
men.
yeah,
That was a big influence.
I'm gonna take it.
So, is it hard to be dating and to go on a date with a guy knowing if he breaks up with you or breaks your heart, you're going to write a breakup song about him, and it's going to be very public.
You know, it's interesting because sometimes guys will ask me about that, be like, "Oh, you gonna write a song about that?" I had this one guy. He told me he was like, "You'll never write a negative song about me." I'm like, "Oh no."
Like confidence.
Fun fact,
Um,
actually, one of my
how long did that?
excuse, the one that came out this year, that's about him. So he did get one written about him, but it's interesting. Like, you know,
How long did that relationship last?
that I think it was like 4 months and then like some back and forth in and out of my life kind of deal, you know.
Well,
But
and you did just win Song of the Year in Charleston, so congratulations on that
I
one.
got, yeah, it was really special. It's a really personal song. It's called Excuse. So I had this idea that like I think when you want something to work really bad, even though like your friends and your family, like, you have all these red flags, and like I think like I in this relationship was making excuses to keep this person in my life. And then in the meantime, he was making excuses to keep doing what he was doing. And then I was like, well, who's to blame? Like you're keeping him in your life and like he's continuing to hurt you. So it's just like this crazy cycle of like who's gonna be the one to end it, you know? So that's kind of what that song's about. But I love songwriting. Like I love being able to, put words and like put a story to a scenario that like so many people go through, like, and seeing them come up to me and like tell me, how that song resonated with them. And because like I'm one of those people, like if I find a song that really resonates with me, it's like it like lives with me, like I'll have it on repeat, like it'll be in my car, it'll be while I'm doing my makeup, and like if it's what I'm going through at the time. And songwriters have such a special opportunity to put words and put a story to an emotion that so many people feel, and maybe they just didn't know how to say it like that. And it's a really special, like surreal thing to be able to do. And but it is funny trying to date and you know I never like I never want to, like, I'm not that person that's like, oh, I'm gonna get back at this person and write a nasty song about them. It's just what I do. It's how I express how I'm feeling. And if it's really simple, just don't be a turd and I won't write a bad song about you. Hey,
I mean,
this is
easy.
good for
That's
you. Yeah, if you're a nice guy, you'll love it. You'll get all these songs about you and they'll be nice. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing. You just got to be nice.
Now, do you song for anybody else, or have you only been songwriting for yourself?
I've only written songs for myself right now. I'm thinking about moving to Nashville and trying to, co-write with some people I know up there. Like I work with some writers up there already, but I'd love to like get into writing like a couple days a week and potentially getting a song pitched to an artist, because I think that would be really cool. I mean, it'd be hard to like let go of a song, I think, because like some songwriters, they're really good at like hearing somebody else's story that's not theirs and like writing a song out of it. But anything I write about, it's usually very close to me, like something that happened in my life. So I think it'd be weird to like let go of a song because I've never had to do that before. But that's a great way to get your foot in the door. Like so many big artists, they started off writing and then they got a song pitched, and it's a great way of putting you in front of record labels or just important people that could potentially look at you as an artist, or potentially pitch more of your songs to artists. So I definitely would like to move. I'm thinking of moving and trying to write a little more, and that would be something that would be really special if that ever happened.
Yeah.
So
What's your day like right now, though? So if you're like, are you songwriting, 3, 4 times a week or like every day? Do you have like an hour where you just go to your room and like, this is my time? Kind of like talk me through that process.
Yeah, it's different every time for me. I think I don't have like a I probably should. My producer told me one time to like wake up every morning and just even if you just write a sentence, like just keeping your mind creative and I'll do that sometimes, but I'm usually really like it's like very spontaneous for me. Like I'll have a melody in my head or I'll sometimes I on purpose will be like I'm going to go sit with my guitar like I want to write a song today or I'll like have an idea in my car and I'll have my voice memo thing like while I'm driving and it's really cool. Sometimes I'll listen to like other songs and I'll hear a melody like that's not in the song that's like in the same key, if that makes sense. So like I'll turn the song off and then hum it like to my phone. So I it's usually very spontaneous for me. If I'm doing like a co-write, then I have the intention of going into that right with like a hook or a melody. I try to always like if I'm going into a co-write, like have some kind of hook or idea to get the right going. And obviously that person will bring in like their ideas too. But yeah, like I just usually it's very spontaneous. Like I'll I have this funny thing where I like to write songs in the bathroom because the acoustics are really good. So if I want to sit down and write a song, I'm usually sitting on the bathroom floor just humming melodies and trying to find a good hook. I always like to play on the words and make sure it's like a creative hook and not just something somebody else has already said, which is hard as a songwriter because any song that's out there, somebody's already said it. You just have to find a more like a different way of saying it in a creative way. So,
So let's say hypothetically you decide one day to take a trip to Maryland to go pick up some cats that you saw online. Let's just say hypothetically that happens. You one day decide,
who does that?
I don't know who does that, but you see some kitties online and you drive, I don't know, 10 hours to go pick up some cats, hypothetically.
Yep.
What artists are you listening to on this drive to Maryland if that trip were to happen?
Well, if that ever happened, because that's kind of weird.
Yeah, who would do that? Because
Who would
nobody has cats in South Carolina.
I did do that. Y'all can tell by the
I,
tone of my voice.
I
I did. I found they're very cute. They are Himalayan blue point Siamese, so they are like white and gray with like very powder blue eyes. So cute. But I found them on Facebook and I drove to Maryland to get them.
And one
So
was for your mom, though, so it was
one is
sweet.
my mom. So yes, I am a cat lady. That is a thing. But let's see, what was I listening to? I went with one of my really good friends because it was like a 10-hour drive. So we were listening to all sorts of music. Like we got in like a mood where we were listening to um like 80s rock and then we went all
Okay.
country.
Hold on, I gotta pause you there. What 80s rock you listening to?
My friend Allie was the one that had the playlist going. I'm trying to think. It was a lot of different music. Like we did some rock, we did country. She loves musicals, so we were listening to like Broadway, which I'm not very familiar with. Um, but I have an appreciation for it. We listened to the Mamma Mia soundtrack.
ah, so good.
You know, um, yeah, we were like, I was introducing her to like some of the artists I like.
Give me some names here, Lauren.
I like. There's some girls in country music right now that are killing it. Like I love Caitlin Smith. She's such a great songwriter. Um, I love Haley Witters. There's one girl. She's really good. Do you know May Estes? Is that how you say her name? Have you heard of her?
I haven't.
I'll like independent artists that I like love. I really like finding like independent artists that are they have more of an organic sound to them. Trying to think. I love Carly Pierce. Like she's more mainstream, but like out of the mainstream ones, like I love Carly. Um,
That's a perfect segue for me right there.
Okay.
Because you did just have a really big moment, which it might be the biggest moment of your career thus far. I'm not sure, but um,
It
you, you got to open for Lee Brice. I'm gonna set the stage for you. You get to open for Lee Brice, and then you got to come out on stage at Credit One Stadium in front of 9,000 people and sing "I Hope You're Happy Now" with Lee Brice. So, can you walk us through that day? How did you
Yep.
meet Lee Brice? How did you get to open for him? And what led to that moment of you walking out on stage and singing that song in front of 9,000 people?
Well, it's a cool story. So my producer in Nashville, he actually was one of the producers on his song Rumor, and
Mm,
he that whole album that Rumor was on. So he's really close to Lee. And then a guy that I co-write with a lot. His name's Philip Lammons. He's a writer with Curb Records. He writes with a lot of big artists, but he writes with Lee a lot. So I had my two biggest Nashville connections are very close to Lee. So that connection was there. And then I got booked through a promoter here in town to play this event with Folds of Honor. So it's an organization that helps raise money for military families, and they do this event every year where they bring in an artist to raise money. And so I found out the artist they were bringing in was Lee Brice. They'd asked me to open the show. This was actually last year. So I did the event last year, and it was a smaller event. Like I think they only let 300 people be there. And so I, I'm not the person like I don't like to like seem like too presumptuous or like ask for too much. So I was like very nervous about asking, but my producer that I'm really close to, I texted him. I was like, "Hey, like what are the chances? This is a really small gig. There's only 300 people there. I already play the song, in my band. We cover it with my guitar player singing the guy part. I was like, I know it really well, and it's one of his biggest songs, and I'll be there." So I was like, "Do you think you could ask him? Is that weird? If you don't want to ask him, that's fine." And my producer Dan was like, "I'll ask him." And so he ended up asking him, and he sent me a screenshot. Lee texted back and was like, "Sure, let her know we play at a half step down and we're good to go." And I'm freaking out. So I'm like, okay, this is happening. And so I got to sing with him last year, and it was really cool. Like it was a very like intimate, small event, but it was like such a big deal to me. Like it was one of the coolest things I'd ever done. And Lee was super nice. Like after we sang the song together, he came off stage after the show was done. He's like, "You did a great job. You're welcome to sing it whenever we're in the area." And it went really well. His band was really nice, and I made friends with them. So then this year comes around, they do the event again, and they're doing it on a bigger scale where they actually are doing a 2 night thing where they do like the pre-show night. That was me and Edwin McCain this year. So that 300 people thing happened with me and Edwin. And then the next night was in this big stadium here in Charleston, and they had Lee Brice and Big and Rich for that night. So I remembered what Lee said, like, "Oh, you're welcome to sing it whenever." So I had his tour manager's number, and I texted the tour manager.
Do you remember what Lee Brice said last year?
I'm like, I held on to that. He said I could sing it again. I'm like, I will take you up on that. Um, so there's a couple months before this year's event, and I knew it was going to be in the stadium, and I actually grew up like 5 minutes from that stadium. Had always wanted to play it, like one of my childhood dreams. So I was like, I wonder if this would ever happen. So I texted the tour manager and I asked him, I was like, "I totally understand if you say no, because I get that it's a bigger show and like it's in a stadium. Totally understand. But is there a chance that Lee would want to sing the duet again?" And like he'd want me to sing it with him because I would love to. Like last year meant so much to me, and the tour manager told me he would ask Lee, but it was too far in advance. He was like, "Text me a week before that show, and I'll let you know." I'm like, "Okay, I can wait. I will wait. I'm not a patient person." But so I knew it was a possibility like all year this year, and it finally got to be like a week before, and I texted the tour manager. He didn't respond. And I'm like, "Okay, it's fine." And so like I sent a follow-up text, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Lee's been busy. I don't know yet." it's probably good to go, but we don't know. And so I'm like hanging on this, like, okay, you said it's probably
Right.
going to happen, not confirmed. And so like days go by and it gets to be the pre-show night where I'm playing the one with Edwin McCain, and I'm at literally the pre-show before this huge show, and I'm like, I haven't heard anything. It's probably not going to happen. My guitar player is like, just send another text. Just text them. I'm like, okay. So I send another text. I leave that night. I'm on the way home, and he sends me the text. He goes, "You're good to go. You're singing with Lee." Less than like 24 hours before, I'm like, okay. I started like screaming in my car. I was like flipping out.
So you didn't
So
get any sleep that night then?
I actually did. I don't know how that happened.
I was going to
Maybe
be asking, like, did you sleep like throughout the whole entire week on just like waiting on eggshells? Like,
that's what like I really, because like that happened that week where I didn't sleep that well like leading up to it because I had no clue what was happening. So I think I made myself so tired that the actual night before I slept, which I guess worked out. Um, but they told me, they're like, you'll have passes at the front. This is what's gonna happen. No sound check, nothing. They're like, your little in ears, and we'll give you a set list, and you'll have to be backstage. And so I come to the venue. They have me all situated. There's like a little green room for me, and I just wait like throughout the whole show. My one of my best friends was back there with me, and my whole band was out front. I had friends out in the pit, and it was really special. I
So hold
was
on here. So you didn't even open up for Lee Brice at Credit One. You just came out to sing that one song.
Yeah. I opened the event. So like,
Okay, at Folds of Honor. Gotcha.
yeah. And so no, I didn't. I literally
Uh,
just thrown into it, like no sound check, and it was so fun. Like I was very very nervous
did you get a
because it's
chance
a lot of.
to like talk to Lee beforehand and just say hey before you went out there?
I did. It was really cool. My so not my producer that set this whole thing up, but the guy that I write with, Philip, that I'd mentioned, that writes with him all the time. Philip was actually conveniently riding with Lee on the bus that whole weekend. So Philip was in town, and I got to go hang out with him and Lee up at the big green room at Credit One Stadium, and so I did get to say something to him beforehand, which was really nice, and thank him for having me. So I did get that moment, and then he like said my name, and like I walked out, and my mind went blank when he looked at me. I was wearing this white dress thing, and he goes, "Well, Lauren, you look like you should be on the Grand Ole Opry." And he said Opry, and my brain just went Opry. But
I
he's
mean,
super high. It was definitely probably the biggest like highlight moments of my career so far.
Is that the biggest crowd you ever sang in front of?
I think so. I mean, like I've played at music festivals that have had more people, but the thing is, when you play music festivals, usually at my level, you're during the day when not everybody's there. So like even if they had like, I don't know, 40,000 people at the festival, like those people aren't all there when you play. So I would say like, yeah, it was probably the biggest amount of people all in a stadium. And I've never played in a stadium either. So that was really a special thing. Like just even hearing that wave of sound coming off the crowd,
Yeah.
it's a very surreal feeling. And like people were singing back, and like hearing your own voice come through those big speakers, and like it's just a very, as an artist, it's like one of those moments you're like, this is really really cool.
I got goosebumps listening to you sing it. You absolutely killed it. And I woke up the next morning and like I mean, we have a lot of mutual friends. I'm just like clicking on Instagram stories and it's just like you singing with Lee Brice and pictures of you. And I was like, go ahead, girl. I was like, that's my friend. I know her.
Well, thank you for
oh,
being supportive. That was part of what made it so special too, is like I kept telling myself when I was, in my head getting really nervous about it because it was so many people, that, that audience is just a bunch of like all those little gigs I played with the radio station, that it was like a radio show or a bar show. It's the same people that would come to a Lee Brice show. So it's just all those people that have known me since I was a teenager, just kind of all in one building. So I had to keep reminding myself that, and that like afterwards seeing all the people showing me all that love, like it was cool. I felt like it was like it was like a big thing, like as a community, like, oh, someone from Charleston like got to do that. We were all like together in that. Like it was a cool feeling.
That's awesome.
Aw. Now, do you have anything planned within the next few months?
I do. Have a really big show next year. I can't say what it is yet, but it's a festival, and I'm very
Okay.
excited.
Okay, but when you can say it, whose show are you gonna come on and break the news? Is it gonna be 92 or this one?
I don't know. It's out of town, so I'm sure
Ooh.
not talking
I
about.
got followers all around the world, Lauren. I'm global.
I don't want to give it away, but it's gonna be really big. It's gonna be big. I'm excited. Some of
Can
my
you
favorite.
tell us what state it's in?
Huh?
Or what branch? Is it East Coast, Midwest,
It's East.
California? East Coast? Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, it's
oh,
gonna be fun. I've got that coming. I have a new single coming. We just filmed a music video for it.
Do you have a name for
ooh.
the single? Can you tell us that yet?
Can't tell you the name yet. I will tell you.
Trying to
It's
get
gonna be.
scoop on here,
It's a
Lauren.
it's a sassy breakup song, and we filmed it at a fair here in town, and that was really cool. I had to jump through so many hoops to film it there because of like liability and everything because the fair was open, so we were trying to do some scenes with like games or rides, and then we did this big like performance scene at night where there was like a huge pond in the middle of this fair, and we had the band set up in the grass, so you had the whole fair reflecting on the pond, and then we had smoke. It looked very cool. um but that'll be coming next year. I'm thinking late January, early February. So I've got new music, got some
Are we
festival
going to
gigs.
dances to it?
Am I what?
Are we going Are we going to be able to do some line dancing to it?
I think so, yes. I'll have to give y'all an exclusive preview of it once
I
it gets
mean,
closer to the
not
release.
to brag or anything, but our contacts on here, they do usually email us, you know, songs that have not come out yet and give us the first scoop and, get our opinions and see if maybe there is
Hey,
one. Because,
I
imagine if you had a line dance come out the same time the song came out. I mean, it might help you a little bit.
that is true. Or you could try to. So Tara, he tried to teach me to dance. I cannot dance. It's bad.
It went
Like
well.
I serious help. Like I need some lessons. I'm just not coordinated. So I very much appreciate what y'all do because I cannot do it.
I
I
don't
got
know how you remember all the words.
I don't know how I do that either. I'm like really good at memorizing
Do
stuff.
you ever just go up there and just like completely forget a verse or a
Oh yeah,
chorus? Okay.
yeah.
You
That's
start
how
humming at some point.
I start singing gibberish, like just like chorus, and I remember what's going on.
that
Or I'll
But
just look at my guitar and be like, guitar solo.
but mind you, Tara, I had to ask her for 3 months just to get her to finally dance with me. Because
It's
and I wanted to bring this up because now I've been watching Lauren perform for I don't know 4 years I think now. So and she kills it. She goes up on stage and everybody in Charleston just adores Lauren. So after she's done on stage, everybody comes up to her and they're like, "Oh my God, Lauren, we love you. Can we get a picture with you? And we buy your T-shirts." So like I'm not trying to be some weirdo walk up to her and be like, "Hi, I really enjoyed your performance." So I'd never talked to her and but I've always loved watching her play. And so then you got the gig to play at the Carolina Country Music Festival earlier this year, which is a huge show. I remember you posted the poster for it, and I think it was with Dirk Bentley and Darius Rucker. I think Luke Combs was maybe on there too. And then and your name's on that list, and I was like, that's just so freaking cool. Like I've watched you perform for 4 years, and like for the rest of your life, you can look at that poster and say, "Hey, I was on the same card with Darius Rucker and Dirk
Oh
Bentley."
yeah,
These cool
I
people.
bought one of those and it is framed.
So I messaged her and I was like, "Hey, I'm really proud of you. I'm really happy for you." And Lauren messaged me. She's like, "Oh, thank you." She goes, "I love watching you dance." And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, Lauren likes watching me dance. I'm like, so cool. I was like, she likes what I do. So cool. So then you came to the Parmalee concert. That's where we met for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're there with Paul, your keyboardist. And I walked up to her and I was like, Lauren, let's dance. And she was like, no. She was like, I don't know how to dance. I don't want to learn how to. I'm too scared. I can't dance. I was like, oh, come on. I got you.
I just, it's funny because like it was right after I think did I open for them in that show? I feel like I saw you at one where I like had opened the show, and like you look cool after you've just done your set, and then like Donnie's like, you should come dance with me in front of all these people that watched you sing. I'm like, no, Donnie, they think they just watched me sing. They're gonna look at me and go, wow.
Oh,
I'm like,
bless you.
I do what they think of me if they see me dance right now.
Okay, okay. It makes sense. So secretly, you'll just, start learning, start watching some videos, and then one day you can finally do a dance TikTok with him.
Yeah,
Oh, no, she
that
finally
would
did
be
one
great.
with
I
me.
mean,
She did do one
A
I
dancing.
dance.
did.
Yeah, we did do one because she put out her most recent single, which came out, November 4th. So it was, a month and a half ago. It's a
Check
great
it out.
song, by the way. If you guys have not heard My Last by Lauren Hall, please go on all music platforms and listen to My Last, Excuse, Gone. They're all Just Like
Yeah,
I Knew. They are all fantastic music, especially Just Like I Knew. Sometimes I'm just in the car and I'm just bopping to that song, especially like more towards the end. And I'm just like, okay. I was like, I love that song. But yeah, we filmed some TikToks to support her new song, My Last. And so I got her to dance with me one time and taught her how to dip and everything. And she didn't fall. She seems to
that's
relax
right.
a little bit, but she did okay.
I love it.
Okay, I mean, I feel like it was bad, so I appreciate the okay.
You did.
Someone
Hey,
you warned me. You were like sometimes like because with your following, he's like people will comment things that are not very nice. So I was like checking comments, like just curious, like what are people saying? And this one person was like, she looks uncomfortable. I was like, I am. I don't know what I'm doing.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there.
Yeah, we'll just have to have like a dance class. You guys can just like double team it and help me because I need help.
we're gonna need at least 8 hours on a Saturday, Lauren.
I actually so when I was like 11, I did take hip hop.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
I did that.
It is tough for the ladies because they could grow up doing ballet or jazz or hip hop, and then all of a sudden when you do couples dancing you have to follow the man. Like that's the only way dancing works is if you follow the leader. So I'm sure it's tough because y'all are used to dancing by yourselves and all of a sudden you have to actually listen to cues from a man. And sometimes women have problems listening to men. So
I would rather somebody lead me because I don't know what I'm doing. So
Mm.
I'm that person. Like I go see like if I'm going out for a girls' night or whatever, and we go see a band. Like everybody looks cool dancing. I'm the one in the corner with my drink. Like I'm just gonna observe the music because I don't know what to do. But
Do you have a favorite spot in Charleston you like to go to?
you what?
So do you have a favorite spot in Charleston you like to go to?
I have a few.
List a few, so in
I
case we have
just discovered.
stalkers on here, they don't track you down. So give us a few spots you might hit.
Well, I just went to one that like it's called Uncork. It's a wine bar. Um,
Ooh,
and I love red wines, like my favorite. But we went
Ooh,
there.
now
The
we're talking.
Yeah, they have live music. It's just a really like I'm not really I have never been the like party club scene person. I'm not really it's not my thing. So like I like more of like a you can hear each other talk, you can sit down and listen to a band. That's more me. There's another place called Bourbon and Bubbles. It's a fun spot. They do the
Where is
best espresso.
where is that one?
It's on King Street. It's like almost across from Uptown Social, which is not my vibe. Uptown stresses me.
There's so many people are packed in this tight, and you can't
Yeah,
can't
I
talk to
can't.
anybody. You can't dance. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. Like if it's more of like a college bar. Like a lot of the younger kids want to go there, but like I'm more of like I like a chill bar where I can appreciate like having conversation or there's a band or like But anywhere I can get some good red wine or an espresso martini. That's That's where I'm at.
Do you feel like growing up playing in like clubs and everything kind of ruined your party experience?
I don't think so. I think you see a lot, when you play in bars, and some of it's funny, some of it's sad. You just learn a lot. You just see a lot of things, especially as like a 16-year-old. Like I played gigs at 16 where like drunk people fell into my mic stand and I had to like dodge the mic and it almost went into the kick drum, like, and like just seeing stuff like that, like where it's like very sad, and like I'm all about, like, I'm a musician, so like I'm there to have fun with them and entertain them and like be part of the party, so like I do love that aspect of it. But I think watching like kind of the dark side of it from a young age kind of helped me understand like how to have a balance of like, yeah, you can go out and have a good time, but like don't do certain things or like don't get too sucked into like that scene where it can become toxic. But I was also homeschooled, so you know it's funny. People are like, "Oh, you must have been sheltered." I'm like, not really. I started playing in bars when I was a teenager, so I learned a lot, even though I was homeschooled. But I kind of just, I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm more introverted. I'm just not like I don't really like the kind of party scene. It's just not really me. But I love entertaining the party scene and being the band and being up on
Yeah.
stage. It's a thing.
All your music is good dance music. You write a lot of good two-step songs.
Well, thank you.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, there's one that's the one that's coming out next year. The drummer that tracked on it in the studio in Nashville, when I played him the scratch track for it, he's like, "Oh, this one swings." So I don't know what that means in dance world, but he said it swings.
I mean, there's different types of
Who
swing,
knows?
but
I don't.
we'll figure
You
something
know.
out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, is there any other shout outs that you want to tell everybody who's watching?
Um, if y'all just like, I'd love for everybody to go check out my music. Like Donnie was saying, like it's on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your music. I have an EP that came out 2 years ago, and I had some singles come out this year. So be sure to go follow me on Spotify. So you can also check out the new music coming out next year. And if you want to go follow me on TikTok, I saw that some people have been following me. I appreciate that. Trying to get the hang of TikTok. I'm new to it a little bit,
Mhm.
so appreciate you guys following me and appreciate y'all having me on the show.
Well, we appreciate
Yeah, of
you coming
course.
on. I got one last question for you though. When are you
Okay,
gonna let me take you downtown?
we need to make that happen.
I mean,
We need to go to I just went there. Have you been to that Christmas bar?
no, 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 no.
We'll have to go check out some Christmas stuff downtown.
That sounds good. You let me know the night because my followers they keep asking me like Donnie, when are you taking Lauren downtown? Because
Okay, we're gonna
you were all mad at me last month, and I offered to take you, and you still haven't, given me a date yet to take you downtown.
okay.
Y'all got like 3 weeks.
Okay, it's gonna happen.
Okay,
You heard it here. It's going to happen.
okay. I'm just trying to make you happy. You got all mad at me. I didn't take you downtown.
Hey, you made me happy. We can go to that Christmas thing where they have fake snow. That's where we'll go.
Let's do it. Do they have red wine there?
No, but we can go find some.
Sold.
That's my girl.
Sold.
It's nice to meet you, Tara.
Nice to meet you. So I'm super excited. Like I'm really excited for everything that's coming up next year for you. So I can't wait to see it and then like yeah, talk about it again.
Yeah, we'll have to like keep this going. We'll have to chat again sometime.
We would love to
Heck
have
yeah.
you on, and anything you ever need, just let us know. You know we got you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Of
Thank you.
course. Well, thank you for coming on, and we will be in touch soon.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, thank you, everyone. Hope you guys have a great night.
See you guys.